My name's Shirley McAlpine, and I am a leadership facilitator and executive coach, and I also own my own business, which is a management consulting business. So I have two children. I have my son who's 16 and the volleyball player, and I have a daughter who's 21 and she's doing her undergrad in Barcelona. I was born in London, in East London to be specific, quite close to where the Olympic Games were held. So Olympic Games were held in Stratford. I always say that because that allows people to locate. No one knew where we were before the Olympic Games, right? So I was born there and of parents who were immigrant parents who came to the UK in the 60s from Dominica. First, the biggest thing is north and south. If you're born north of the river, of the Thames, there's a particular energy or culture in London versus south. And then, so there's that divide. And then East London just has a rich kind of heritage is really predominantly from the past has been working class communities in there. It still is, but obviously gentrification has happened. And so that's changing a lot. But, and a lot of people, certainly from the Caribbean who immigrated, located in East London. So that's how we ended up there. So my parents emigrated from the beautiful island of Dominica, which is close to Guadeloupe, St. Lucia in Martinique. It's in that part of the Caribbean, and they in the mid-60s. I was born in London, and so they'd been there, just 5 or 6 years by the time I was born. But I was younger, so they were on child number 4 by the time that I arrived. In the Forest Gate area where I was born, there was quite a big community of people from Dominica, and you know how immigration happens. You know, someone arrives, and then you house the next person who comes, right? So then you support each other as you get your own places and stuff like that. So it creates an enclave of the same community. So, you know, it's not like that right now, but when I think about my time growing up, it was just it felt like sometimes another village of Dominica because there were so many Dominicans, and we lived around the corner from the church. It's a strong Catholic community. And so we used to call our house the Dominican Community Centre because people would always stop by on the way back from church. And so that's how it was just this rich experience of Dominica. And then the other large community was the Irish community as well. So when I think about my time growing up, that's what I think about really, is that rich community experience. My sense of Dominica coming through those relationships and the families that were kind of family, friends of the family, and lots of Irish people, because I went to Catholic schools. So that's what East London kind of means to me. And fish and chips, of course. If you know anything about the UK, then fish and chips is our big takeaway. When I think about my childhood in terms of the family and the community, it's fond, and it's just rich and it's beautiful, and it's kind of like a mesh of the UK culture with the Dominican culture, and then as I merged into my teenage years, what was emerging in London was a Black British culture, and if you know Soul to Soul and all of those kind of bands that emerged out of the Black British environment, and at the same time, the other part of that as I was getting into my teens was a growing awareness of the tensions of that, as immigrants weren't always necessarily welcome, and the challenge of that, and us beginning to understand that as I was growing up. So, you know, there was this period in the 80s where it was really about how do we claim our rights to be there as Black Britons, to establish ourselves, because people would always ask, well, where are you from? And you think, I'm from East London. No, where are you really from? I'm from East London. I've not been anywhere else. And so there was this kind of movement to call ourselves Black Britons, to claim our rights to be Black British. And And so that, I think of that as well as I was growing up and how I was like developing my identity, really. And ironically, living in the States, in some respects, I've never felt more British, you know, because people hear my accent and then just like, it's the question, where are you from? But that's an authentic question rather than all those years of growing up where it was really not that. It was really like, you don't belong here, was really where that was coming from. I moved to the US 12 years ago in 2013, in January 2013, to Chicago. I want to say that because we had no idea just how cold it could get until we got to Chicago. People would say, you know, Chicago's cold. And we're like, we're from the UK. We've done winter. No, we have not done a Chicago winter until we got there. In 2009, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And he passed away by the end of the year. In December 2009, he passed away. And I was one of his primary carers. In some of the most difficult circumstances, some beautiful things emerges, you know? We had some beautiful moments together in that year. But just before, I asked him, I remember having a conversation with him about his life and what regrets did he have? And we had this wonderful conversation. And it really lingered with me after he passed away. And in the lingering, one of the things that I was looking at was like, what would be like a regret of mine if I was on the verge of my own last days. After my dad had passed, I thought to myself, like, what would be a regret of mine if I was near the end of my life? And this is going to connect to me in my post-graduation. I had a big regret was going to be that I never lived in the US or I never tried. And that connects to, after I graduated university, I came to the US for 3 months and I left and I was like, I'm going to live here. And then I would, like, every year say, I'm gonna move to the States, 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 and then never did. And not only did I never do it, I never even tried. And so when my dad passed away, I said, you know, sometimes we go for things and it doesn't work out. It isn't the thing that happens. We don't produce that result. But that's very different from not trying at all. That's very different from giving up on something that you wanted. And so I said to my husband, I want us to move to the US. And he was like, like, why? You know, like, why would we do that? We had a really great life in London. You know, we had the 2 kids that were going to a really great school. We lived in a lovely area, Alexandra Palace. You know, my business was going well. He had a great job. And it was like, why would you create an upheaval when everything is working and working well? And we had beautiful family, friends, you know? So why would we do that when everything is working well? And it's like in the pursuit of a dream. Like, that is literally, like, I had dreamt that when I was 21 and I wanted to not live with a regret. And if we came and it didn't work out, then that's fine, because what's the worst that can happen? You can just go back. Or the other was, you know, maybe, well, we came and it's worked out, but maybe the other things I might have applied and not got the visa. And it's like, okay, then at least I've made the attempts to fulfill a dream that I had. And so I studied, let me go back again now, I studied American Studies as part of my undergrad. And so that's like how I ended up in America. It was like the pursuit of a dream, the pursuit of living life more fully. So when I was talking to my husband about moving to the States, I said to him, when we got married, we said to each other, we wouldn't turn into Mr. and Mrs. Ordinary. And we are turning into Mr. and Mrs. Ordinary with 2 kids in a lovely apartment in in a beautiful area, you've got a great job, I've got my business. It's just like we are literally turning into that. And we said we wouldn't do that. And so he went away, he thought about it, and he came back and he says, okay, let's do it. At the heart of what I do is about supporting individuals, teams and organizations to like really be the best they could be, to explore what's possible for them, and then to make it happen. If I think about at the individual level, it's like, what is it that you want for your life? You know, that whole the thing around dreaming. What is it that you want? What's the dream that you have for yourself? And how do you go after it? And how do you make it happen? And because that's how I've lived my life, you know, and there's been many stories of different dreams fulfilled. And so many people settle in life for various reasons, not from a place of, this isn't to judge, this is just to state that we lose faith in our own dreams and lose faith in ourselves and get derailed by many things, because life can be hard and challenging, right? So it's like, how do I support people getting back on their own path, whatever that possibility or that dream is. And then I'm really, really good at supporting people with dreaming. And I'm also good at, let's get down to action, because insight without action is just doesn't produce any results, right? So, and in terms of like the work that I'm doing when I'm working with organizations and I'm working with teams, is how do you support people to be their best, to fulfill on the purpose and the vision of the organization and the work? Because I believe we achieve the vision of any purpose through people. And the more we take care of people, the more we motivate people, the more we empower people, the closer you'll get to the result. Like doing that with integrity rather than the many other ways in which teams and organizations function, which just doesn't care for people, you know, so at the heart of that. So that's really why I work, and I do it in various ways. And I love working with women as well. I've had a track record of working with women, working around equity, and empowering individuals and organizations around those issues and dynamics that come up when we don't see the beauty and the value and the potential of people, because all the various isms that get in the way of people really being seen. When I think about what has led me to do the work that I do, you know, I've shared with you that my father passed away from cancer, my mum passed away from cancer. When I was 28, I lost my best friend to cancer. There's a lot of people that I've lost who have passed away far too soon. And what it does is it makes you really present to the value of life. And that this is it, you know that phrase, this isn't a dress rehearsal? It really isn't. And we can get really complacent. Like there's we got tomorrow. Tomorrow really isn't promised. And so this is like I task myself with being really present. Like when I'm not present, it's like get with the program, Shirley, and get present to where you are right now and what's happening right now and what you want, and living your life fully, because you don't ever want to be at that point of regret, right? And to support other people with the same. So I think that's my fuel, is that experience of loss, and also the experience of what it feels like when you're fulfilling a dream. You know, I live in, when I think about where I am now in Chicago, and I live in a place where I see the lake every single day in this beautiful place. And I'm from parents who came from like Dominica in the hope and the promise of something in the 60s. My pathway, it wasn't predictable. And so to not be stopped by the path that where you were born or the circumstances you were born in, but to step into the dream and do all the work that you can to get the dream fulfilled, really. So I get excited about when I see people living their life more fully, when they get the results that they want, because it's being present to the gift that life has given us. And so I think that's really my fuel. And then if I think about, I have been given a gift to support people with what I call healing spaces, because life is challenging and hard, and we develop blockages that gets in our way of the fulfillment of the dream that we have, right? So my work is to like take those things out of the way so that someone can see more clearly what's possible for them and see what are the actions that they can take to get them. So being in Arlan's All Access is the biggest thing for me is being inspired by being in a space where other people are in the same like game as you. I want to say something about Arlan, and then I'm going to say something about the community. When you're in a group of people who are in pursuit of the dream that they have, in pursuit of a goal that they have, and you're running it along the same track in terms of that, there's such a support, and you get inspired by other people's goals and what they're playing for, and also when they're overcoming the challenges that when they face them. And so you see, when you've got that, you're like, do you know what? I'm seeing it. I see people get over it. I see where they're stuck. I know that I'm stuck in the moment. I can keep it moving. I don't have to stay stuck. So, you get the support. It's like the slipstream, right, of the support that gets created. So you get a lot from being in the same room and being in the space together and playing the same game. And I know that supportive relationships are just critical for maintaining accountability, and success comes through. That's one of the heart of change, is supportive relationships. And so, and then the other thing for me about being in Arlan's All Access is that Arlan is literally playing a game for herself all the time. And when you see it in real time, that she's created a new goal for herself, she's got a new vision, and then she's going into execution. And then as she's doing it, she's sharing. And she's sharing the lessons she's learning, she's sharing the breakthroughs that she's having, she's sharing the challenges that she's having as well. And so she's literally role modeling. And, I remember, because we've been around for a while, right? So I remember in October 2023, she made the commitment to go into YouTube and build out her YouTube. I think she'd been on YouTube before, but just like to get more intentional about her YouTube channel. And she was encouraging us to do the same. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm gonna do, right? But, and to see where it is now, I mean, you've seen the increase in posting, the intentionality, and then seeing the growth, seeing the results, is where you then go, wait, I watched those results. I watched her sharing in real time. And then it inspires you to say, I could actually I have got a YouTube account, but I do not do anything with it. And I was like, now I'm inspired to, I can see it. And in 12 months, 15 months time, it could be in a totally different place. So that's the beauty of it, of being in the community with someone like Arlan, who is literally doing the same thing, like in terms of like dreaming, thinking of a vision, taking action, causing, creating, and then it encourages us to do the same. It's priceless. Can I just add something else? That she's so committed to the people in her community that when you're stuck, she can really get you moving again. And that was my experience just recently. So it's just like, if you stay in the community, if you're use the community, if you stay in it, if you stay engaged, if there's so much you can get out of it. And to if there's so many of us playing big games, to sit outside of the community would be crazy. I'm doing a lot more work with individuals than I've ever done before, outside of like working with organizations, and I'm delivering a program for women. So last year I launched a program for women called the Brilliant Women Mastermind, and it's a 2-day transformational retreat. And recently we've been getting testimonials, video testimonials, and recently I've been sitting and editing the videos, and the results that the women are getting have just been really just extraordinary. And women who leave their job and get the job that they want in the organization that they want at a higher salary, and that's within a month of completing the retreat. And in fact, getting your dream job, for example, has happened to like a third of the women who participated. And so coming out and really having a real sense of self, a sense of confidence, increased confidence and motivation to go after what you want is one of the things that's showing up. The other is prioritizing themselves, seeing that the way that we're socialized as women, that we inherit certain ways of looking at the world, and when those disappear, then they can start to disappear the imposter syndrome, which has such a grip on us. And so that's happened. Another is around prioritizing their health. And love, like, one was like, these are my hours in the day, they're totally for me, don't even talk to me at any of those in those hours, because those hours are mine. Like that kind of commitment to self, and which is so important, because one example around women's health is 80% of autoimmune diseases is women, and we know autoimmune diseases is when the body starts to attack itself. So health and well-being is really a big goal for me around women. So women are coming out, looking after themselves. Women are coming out, obviously getting more financial freedom, and also there's some who have dealt with some really difficult and really challenging circumstances. And we do this exercise, which is about taking the burden off and putting it down, taking away the burdens that aren't yours to carry. And the freedom that gives women when they no longer have to carry a burden that they've carried for a long time. The confidence that gives women, the women who participate, and is huge. So like in a short space of time, in 2 days, they're able to offload that, create newly. And because I'm really grounded, I'm all about possibility, but I'm also about, okay, so what do we do to get you closer to the thing that you want? It's like day 2, we are focused. We are also looking at like a particular challenge that she's facing, or an opportunity that she's leaving on the table, and we are working with them on that. And so they walk away with a 3 to 6 month plan, and then we have accountability calls afterwards. So the results have been like really extraordinary, and it's just been really moving and a privilege to work with the women that I'm working with. And so my commitment is to keep doing it, is to do more of it and grow that community. My assignment in life is empowering people. And then there's this like an assignment that I have kept dipping in and out of, but I'm really gonna lean more into, is how do I spend more time empowering women to have the lives that they want and to live it fully. If you are someone who has a goal for yourself, and you need to find a community of people who can support you, can encourage you, can travel the path with you, then being inside of Arlan's All Access will give you absolutely that experience. And there's, you know, I'm one of a number of people who are in it, and everyone is amazing and amazing in different ways. And so you can get so many ideas, and it's like you get to see a new level of what's possible when you see other people going after their own goals and then achieving them. And being around Arlan as a role model as well is like second to none.